Good morning, dear students. Today we will start the new lesson, that is magnetism and matter. So we have completed moving charges and magnetism. Now we are moving to magnetism and matter. So it's a very small lesson. Already some topics are deleted from this chapter also. So let us have a look on this. First of all, what is magnetism? Yes, magnetism means it's a phenomenon of attraction of small bits of iron, steel, cobalt, nickel, etc. towards the ore. Isn't it? So it is called magnetism. So you have studied so many phenomena regarded to magnetism, so many properties, everything you have studied. But still we are starting with bar magnet. So you know what is a bar magnet and you all are familiar with a bar magnet. So actually magnets are of two types, natural magnet and artificial magnet. Natural magnets means they are irregular in shape and weak in strength. On the other hand, artificial magnets have desired strength as well as they have desired shape. Okay, so we can say bar magnet, then horseshoe magnet, compass needle. These are all examples of artificial magnets. So when you consider a bar magnet, you know it consists of two poles. Which are the poles? Yes, North Pole and South Pole. Isn't it? So the bar magnet has two poles, North Pole and South Pole, similar to the positive and negative charges of an electric dipole. We have studied that. So here, when a bar magnet is suspended freely, those poles point approximately towards the geographic north and geographic south respectively. That's how we are finding the poles. Okay, you will suspend a magnet freely and this will move or rotate for some time and then they will be still, which points in a direction, like one end will point towards the geographic north and the other end will point towards the geographic south. In such a manner we can identify the poles. Also the properties are, first of all, the like poles repel. Okay, that means north and south. In such a way, if it is coming, the like poles will repel. Then the unlike poles attract. Second property, unlike poles attract. Okay, north, south. So you know the force of attraction is maximum at the two ends of the bar magnet, which we call as the poles. So the poles of a magnet can never be separated. That means when you break this particular magnet into small tiny pieces, even the small piece or the tiny piece or tiny bit of the magnet will exist as two poles. It doesn't exist as a single pole, or we call it as monopole. Always they exist as dipoles, that we call it as magnetic dipole. Okay, so here we have to understand a few more terms, like first one is magnetic length. So magnetic length means the distance between two poles of a bar magnet. So from here to here. Okay, distance between two poles of a magnet is known as magnetic length, which can be denoted as LE. Okay, or effective length. And actually this length, that means starting from this end to this end, we call it as the geometric length. Okay, geometric length. And always this effective length or the magnetic length is less than the geometric length. Understood? So we can consider for a bar magnet, this value, that is the effective value or the magnetic length, is 5/6 of the geometric length. Okay, geometric length means from this end to this end, by its shape, the length. Okay, then this means the starting from north pole, the marking from north pole to south pole. So it is a little bit less than this geometric length. So for a bar magnet, the effective length or the magnetic length is 5/6 of the geometric length. Okay. So as I said, magnetic monopoles do not exist. What does this mean? This statement mean? Yes, we cannot isolate the north or south pole of a magnet. That means the magnetic poles always exist in pairs. If a bar magnet is broken into two halves, we get two similar bar magnets with almost somewhat weaker properties. Okay, so unlike electric charges, isolated magnetic north and south poles are known as magnetic monopoles, and they do not exist. Always they exist as magnetic dipole. Okay, so magnetic dipole means, it is an arrangement of two magnetic poles of equal and opposite strength. Okay, that we will come later. Before that, we will study another term, that is pole strength. Pole strength. That means what? It is defined as the strength of a magnetic pole to attract the magnetic materials towards itself. It is known as pole strength. It is the strength of a magnetic pole to attract magnetic materials towards itself. Okay, so it's a scalar quantity and its unit is ampere meter. So unit of pole strength is ampere meter. That is here the strength of north pole as well as the south pole is conventionally represented as, for north pole it is plus m. Okay, this is the pole strength, and for south pole it is minus m. Understood? And this pole strength actually depends upon the nature of material and area of cross section of the magnet. Okay, so pole strength is represented by the letter m, and for north pole it is plus m, and for south pole it is minus m, and the strength of north and south pole of a magnet is always equal and opposite. Okay, it is plus m and minus m, which means that they are equal but opposite. Clear for you? So here also, similar to our Coulomb's law in electrostatics, here we have to study the Coulomb's law of magnetic force. Okay, now we are moving to Coulomb's law of magnetic force. So here also the statement is almost similar to that of Coulomb's law of electrostatics, where we have stated that the force of attraction or repulsion is directly proportional to the product of the electric charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Right. So here we are stating like, please listen to the statement. The force of attraction or repulsion, which can be represented by the letter F. Okay, between two, here we are expressing the magnetic poles, isn't it? There we have taken the charges, but here we are taking the magnetic poles, and it is having strength, isn't it? Represented by M1 and M2. Okay, so the force of attraction or repulsion between two magnetic poles of strength M1 and M2, separated by a distance r, is directly proportional to the product of pole strength, okay, and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Okay. Actually, distance between their centers. Okay, that's the correct statement. Between their centers. So this can be expressed mathematically like F proportional to M1 M2 divided by R square. Okay, this M1 and M2 are the pole strength. Now this proportionality symbol can be changed by multiplying with a constant K M1 M2 by R square. Here K is the magnetic force constant, and in SI unit K is equal to mu naught by 4 pi. Okay, mu naught by 4 pi, and this has a unit and a value which is given by 10 raised to minus 7 Weber ampere raised to minus 1 meter raised to minus 1. Okay, 10 raised to minus 7 Weber ampere raised to minus 1 meter raised to minus 1. Here this mu naught, you know, it is the absolute magnetic permeability of free space. Okay, so this equation will change to F equal to mu 0 by 4 pi into M1 M2 divided by R square. Clear? This is called the Coulomb's law of magnetic force. And I told that the SI unit of pole strength is ampere meter. Okay, suppose if M1 equal to M2 equal to M and R equal to 1 meter. Okay, so what's the value of F? F is equal to mu naught by 4 pi into M into M divided by 1. So this value, you know, it is 10 raised to minus 7. 10 raised to minus 7 meter square. Clear? Clear for you? So F is equal to 10 raised to minus 7 meter square. And also here, when you suppose that M1 equal to M2 equal to M and R equal to 1, we are assuming that F is equal to 10 raised to minus 7. Okay, so you are substituting the value here, you will get 10 raised to minus 7 equal to 10 raised to minus 7 meter square, or M equal to 1 AM. Okay, this is to define the pole strength as 1 ampere meter. So when can you say that the pole strength is 1 ampere meter? If it repels an equal and similar pole when placed in vacuum at a distance of 1 meter from it with a force of 10 raised to minus 7 Newton. Understood? So the strength of a magnetic pole is said to be 1 ampere meter if it repels an equal and similar pole when placed in vacuum at a distance of 1 meter from it with a force of 10 raised to minus 7 Newton. Clear for you? So this is the definition for pole strength. That is, define one pole strength or define 1 ampere meter. You have to define like this. Clear? So now we are moving to the next topic, that is magnetic dipole. You know what is a magnetic dipole, but again we have to discuss a little. So magnetic dipole means it is actually an arrangement of two magnetic poles of equal and opposite strength, that is plus M and minus M, separated by a small distance. That means you can consider a bar magnet as a magnetic dipole, a compass needle as a magnetic dipole. So in all these cases, there are two poles having pole strength plus m and minus m, which is separated by a small distance. Okay, so these two poles are always of equal strength and of opposite nature, and these two magnetic dipoles will exist in pairs. Clear? Here we have to discuss one more term, like you have studied electric dipole moment. Here we have to discuss magnetic dipole moment. It is nothing but the product of the strength of either pole and the magnetic length of the magnet. Clear? So if you are considering a bar magnet like this, it is having two poles which is separated by a distance, and here the distance is noted as 2L. Okay, magnetic length is denoted as 2L, and then the pole strength, if it is north, it is having plus m, and south means minus m pole strength. So here magnetic dipole moment is the product of the strength of either pole, and the magnetic length. Okay, so how can you express the magnetic dipole moment? It is denoted by the letter capital M, which is given by small m into 2L. Small m into 2L. Okay. Now, what is the unit, SI unit of magnetic dipole moment? You know, for m or the pole strength, it is ampere meter, and again length is there, so again meter. So, ampere meter square. It is the unit of magnetic dipole moment. Clear for you? Magnetic dipole moment means the product of the strength of either pole and the magnetic length, which is given by m into 2L. The unit is ampere meter square. Okay. So our next topic is magnetic field lines that you have already studied in class 10. So these are actually imaginary lines which are used to represent the direction of magnetic field at a point. Okay. So the magnetic field lines are actually a visual and just an imaginary representation, okay, of the magnetic field. It gives the direction of the magnetic field at a point, and the direction can be taken by drawing tangent at that particular point. Okay, so there are certain properties for magnetic field lines. We'll discuss each property in detail. First of all, you know, for a bar magnet, if you are considering a bar magnet like this, this is north pole and this is south pole. Okay, the magnetic field lines will begin from the north pole and end at the south pole, and they are continuous closed loops. Okay, magnetic field lines are continuous closed loops. So in the case of electric field lines, you know, they are not closed. Okay, do you remember that? Yes, but here inside the magnet also they are moving so that it is forming continuous and closed loops. So when you draw, you will get like this. Okay, and inside the magnet it will be from south to north, and outside it is from north to south. Okay. Similarly, you can draw large number of magnetic field lines like this. Clear? Okay, in this way you can draw the magnetic field lines. It is very important that you have to mention the direction with an arrow. Otherwise, you won't get the mark. So this is the first point, that is they are continuous closed tubes and they start from north and ends at the south pole outside, and inside it moves from south to north. Now the second one is, if you want to find the direction of magnetic field at this particular point, you have to draw a tangent here. Okay, so this tangent will give you the direction of magnetic field at that point. Similarly, at any magnetic field line, you can draw a tangent which gives the direction of magnetic field at that point. Okay, so that is the second point. The tangent drawn to the field line will give you the direction of magnetic field. Now the third one is, you can see near this pole the field lines are very much closer, and as they move away, what will happen? The distance between the field lines also increases, which means that closeness of the field lines will give you the strength of magnetic field. So the maximum strength is at the poles, isn't it? The larger the number of field lines crossing per unit area, the stronger is the magnitude of the magnetic field. So you can write the closeness or the large number of field lines will indicate what? The strength of the magnetic field. Clear? And the fourth one is, the magnetic field lines do not intersect. Why? As I told, the tangent will give you the direction of magnetic field. So if they intersect means at the same point like this it would come, right? So at this point you have to draw a tangent. So for this curve, this is the tangent, and this curve, this is the tangent. That means at this point there are two directions which is not possible, isn't it? So you can write the magnetic field lines will not intersect each other. Clear? So these are the properties of magnetic field lines. Okay. So this is a new topic for you, magnetic dipole moment of a revolving electron, and it's an important question also. That is, derive an expression for, like this also it can be asked, Bohr magneton. Okay, derive an expression for Bohr magneton. So here actually we are discussing the movement of an electron around the nucleus. Okay, and last class you have discussed the circular loop, that is the circular current loop as a magnetic dipole, and there we have expressed equation for the magnetic dipole moment of the loop, which is given by M is equal to I into A. Do you remember that? And if there are n number of turns, we will add NIA. Okay. So keep this in mind, we need this equation here. Now anyway, here you know electron is considered, and electron is having a charge, isn't it? Negative charge. So being a charged particle, when it moves, you know it will constitute a current. Am I right? This electron is moving around the nucleus, and as a result of the movement, it should create a current, isn't it? Movement of any charged particle will result in current. And if there is a current, what will happen? Yes, surely there will be a magnetic field, isn't it? Because moving charges constitute a current as well as magnetic field. Clear? So we are considering electron. Electron is a charged particle. So when a charged particle is moving, it will constitute current, and if there is a current, there will be magnetic field. Simply. Clear? So you know, suppose this is the nucleus and electron is revolving around the nucleus. Okay. So if you are considering the time period of revolution, as T, okay, the charge of electron as E, then what about the current generated because of the movement of electron? As it is I equal to, you know, Q by T, isn't it? So here you have E and T. E is the charge of an electron, T is the time period. So you can write E by T. Okay, so this is the expression for current, which we can denote it as equation number 1. Now, this particular electron has an orbital radius. Let the radius be R. Okay, R is the orbital radius of the electron. and let its speed is taken as v. That is, v is considered as the orbital speed of the electron. Then there are equations for time period that you know, that is t is equal to what? 2 pi r by v, isn't it? 2 pi r by v, because total circumference divided or the distance covered by the velocity will give you the time. So 2 pi r is the distance by v, 2 pi r by v. Okay, so you can substitute this value of t in this equation. Clear? So in the equation number 1, we have 1 becomes I is equal to E divided by 2 pi r by v. Clear? So this will go up. So EV divided by 2 pi r. Clear? So let this be equation number 2. This is the expression for current. Now again we are coming back to the magnetic moment. Okay, magnetic moment of an electron in this loop. Okay, it is given by m is equal to, as I told, it is I into A. I into A. We have studied this one. Now you can substitute here, that is I, you know the expression. I is what? As it is given by EV by 2 pi r, EV by 2 pi r, and area is pi r squared. Okay, so here pi get cancelled, r get cancelled, then finally EVR divided by 2. This is the magnetic dipole moment of the electron, EVR by 2. Now here just a small simplification, because here I am multiplying this particular value by ME. Okay, ME means what? Mass of the electron. That is E into, or E by just a rearrangement, 2ME into MEVR. Okay, multiplying and dividing with ME. So this equation will be E by 2ME into MEVR. Clear for you? Now listen, this is MVR. What is this MVR? MVR means angular momentum, isn't it? You have studied this in Bohr's theory and all, that is atomic model and all. You have studied MVR equal to angular momentum. Also you have studied in +1 also. So you can substitute here, that is E by 2ME into L. Clear? Or you can write M is equal to EL by 2ME, where L is the angular momentum of the electron. Clear? Now just again a small simplification, that is I am taking this L here, so I can write M by L is equal to E by 2M. Okay, M by L is the E by 2ME, and it is actually a constant. This constant is known as gyromagnetic ratio. Gyromagnetic ratio. Okay, and its value is 8.8 into 10 raised to 10 coulomb per kilogram. 8.8 into 10 power 10 coulomb per kilogram. Also from Bohr's hypothesis, you have studied that this angular momentum is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi, right? That is L is equal to nh by 2 pi. Clear? Where h is the Planck's constant, n is the natural number. Okay, now here n can be 1, 2, 3, any number it can be. So m is equal to, in this expression, m means what? Magnetic moment is equal to E by 2ME into NH by 2 pi. Instead of L, I put the value NH by 2 pi. Okay, again simplifying, E by 4 pi ME into NH. E by 4 pi ME into NH. Clear? Now for n equal to 1, this value will be minimum. So if I am putting n equal to 1, what is the value? M is equal to EH by 4 pi ME. Clear? EH by 4 pi ME. Okay, so this is the Bohr's magneton. Bohr's magneton, okay, which is defined as the magnetic moment of the revolving electron in its first orbit. So if you are substituting the value for E, all are constants, right? So for E, H, then Me, you are substituting the value. This value is 9.27 into 10 raised to minus 24 ampere meter square. Okay, 9.27 into 10 raised to minus 24 ampere meter square. Clear? This is the value for Bohr's magneton. So this question is very important. Okay, we are expressing the magnetic dipole moment of a revolving electron, which we can call it as the Bohr's magneton. So derive an expression for Bohr's magneton. If it is asked like this, you have to start from the current, expression for current, that is I equal to E by T, where E is the charge of electron and T is the time period. Then again for time period we change the expression 2 pi r by V, substituting there and simplifying. Then taking the expression for magnetic moment, that is I into A. Then putting the value of I and A here. Again simplification, you will get EVR by 2. Then just multiplying and dividing with ME. You will get an expression like this, which is E by 2ME into L. L is the angular momentum, which is MVR. Okay. Now here you will substitute and just a rearrangement, that is M by L, which is E by 2ME, known as the gyromagnetic ratio. And its value is 8.8 into 10 raised to 10 coulomb per kilogram. And now again M equal to E by 2ME into NH by 2 pi, that is for L we are putting the value according to Bohr's hypothesis, L equal to NH by 2 pi. So substituting you will get E by 4 pi ME into NH. So M equal to EH by 4 pi ME when you are putting N equal to 1. This is known as the Bohr's magneton, and it is defined as the magnetic moment of a revolving electron in its first orbit. Okay, and its value is 9.27 into 10 power minus 24 ampere meter square. Clear?